It's the first day of school, 2018, 2019. I just arrived at school. I'm excited. My room isn't done, but I'm at this point where I don't care. And so I'm all set up, although I have heard that the main course, I don't know what I'm trying to say, what it's called. The thing that I do Canvas on, the course website has been acting up for some teachers, and I have built my first lesson around that. So I have a backup plan just in case that doesn't work. I'm going to do the stations that I did the first day of school last year as a backup if that doesn't work. I just parked, and so let me go get ready.
You look cool. You could be a YouTuber. Wait, are you a YouTuber?
You vlogging, mister? Are you vlogging today?
It is the lunch period. Lunch is actually about to end. The bell should be ringing pretty soon. It's been a great day so far, just a minor hiccup with some technology, and then also my printer. I guess that's technology. So I'm gonna get ready for my third period, because this year I teach first, second I have lunch, then teach third, and I have fourth period off. I could have taught third if I wanted to, but I decided that I wanted to teach third and have fourth period off. I also am getting a student teacher this year, so I figured one of the classes that she could gain experience would be the class right after lunch. So I'm gonna give that class to her. So I'm gonna get ready and enjoy my third period class, hopefully, fingers crossed. It is 3:09 p.m. The first day of school for me is over, at least, because I am off fourth period. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but this year I teach first, second, have lunch. I elected to have third period instead of having it off like I did last year, and be off fourth period, because I had the option to choose, and I decided, let me try to go straight through. So it's pretty tough, but I do have a student teacher this year, which I think I also mentioned that. Today went well. There was a couple moments where there was downtime, so I told students, especially my third period, that at this point they can pick and choose because we did stations. And so what I did was I had stations, I don't know if you can see that. So they got a copy of the syllabus, and that was like a scavenger hunt, and they went through and read the syllabus. And secondary teachers, if you don't know about these, I know like the primary teachers know all about these. I had ordered some over the summer, I think like a pack of 10, but I probably should order more. So these are great because you can, I don't know if you can see that, it's like a neon marker. So I just wrote on this and I put the papers in there. Everything stood in here. So, but I also got these, so for example, if we do worksheets and students are doing formative assessments, I can just put a sheet of paper in there and I can have students come up and do the work on that on this one piece of paper, or this, whatever you call these things, and then they can wipe it off, and then the next student can come and do work on there as well. So I don't have to print a whole bunch of copies, because if you follow me for a while now, you know that I'm trying to do personalized learning, blended learning, competency-based learning, a whole bunch of different learning. And so in order to do that, like I'm changed my room around, and the style of grading is also changed. I think I did a better job of explaining like the standards-based grading, and I realized that while I had some components down, I still had a lot of misconceptions in regards to certain things. So I feel I have a better handle on that this year. The students watch the cell phone policy video, so what I'm doing this particular school year is, this won't be in the way, but cell phones are going to be stored here. I got these two things from Michael's, but I realized I probably could have bought, or I could have used a box, because science teachers, they send like the, excuse me, they send the beaker boxes, and like the equipment boxes have like the little slots like that, and I was like, I could have probably just used that instead. But the calculators fit in there, so what the students are going to do, well, first I need to label these, number them, and then the students will describe a calculator and they'll put the calculator in here. I will close it, lock it, and then before the end of class, unlock it, bring everything out, make sure students put their calculator in the correct slot and grab their phone. And I just told students, if they tell me they don't have a phone and then I catch them on their phone, then it's gonna go in the slot and we're gonna have a conversation after class. So first and second period, I didn't really hear much reactions. Third period, they were like, what? That's whack. But they were back there, and I didn't think I could hear them. Other than that, it went well. I had some issues with students being able to access, in the very beginning, the student questionnaire, so they weren't able to either do that right away or do it at all. And so I switched it from them having to log in through their AISD account, and then I had some students who weren't able to access the pre-test. So I tried to print a copy out, and then my printer jammed, and I didn't realize it was jammed. And so, yeah, long story short, I was able to get a paper copy done. And so students that didn't have access to the course website, they were able to use that paper copy without writing it was a class set, and just give me their answers on a piece of paper. Other than that, I'll be ready for tomorrow because it's the same thing. For tomorrow, I am going to start planning and looking through some of the data, because they're going to get a personalized experience on Wednesday. My AD classes got a personalized experience on Wednesday based on how they did on the pre-test. Even if they didn't finish it all, like I can tell, like if the student is struggling rounding and scientific notation, then most likely they're going to struggle when it comes to having to rearrange equations and simplifying these complex fractions. So I'm going to work on that right now and keep my fingers crossed for a good day tomorrow. It is the second day of school, and 6th period just ended. I had a class then. I'm the same B schedule as I did last year. If this is your first time to my channel, Monday and Wednesdays are 8A, so 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Tuesdays and Thursdays are 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and then Friday rotates between A and B day. This Friday is going to be a B day. So it's lunch right now. First, my camera just cut off, I don't know why. I switched some stuff up because yesterday my students, I had the stations and they rotated, but for the math pre-assessment, which I'm doing differently this year based on kind of what I experienced last year, where some students were really weak in math and some were strong, and I didn't really find that out until we started doing, or the course became very math heavy. And so this year I created a math pre-assessment. Yesterday the students had 12 minutes. That wasn't enough time for them to complete the entire thing. I kind of got like a good gauge of where they were at. But so today what I decided to do was introduce myself, and then I sent all the kids to the lab area, gave them the Google URL, and so they all took the math pre-assessment together, gave them about like 20 minutes to do that. And most of the students are able to complete the entire thing. So I have a gauge of where those students are at. So I'm gonna do the same thing 7th period. And then after that, they got to pick and choose the stations, and I didn't time it like I did yesterday, so they had 12 minutes at each station yesterday, and I hit like my little chime, and that was the signal to rotate. I didn't do that today. And the students, for the most part, got through a majority of them, and I was already practicing names because that's the other challenge. Normally, at the start of the school year, I put them alphabetically in rows, and I didn't do that. It's flexible seating, so they all get to sit wherever and move around. So the meet and greet station where we play roll and tell, I made them create a name tent, and then they introduced themselves to me, I introduced myself to them, and that's pretty much it. So I felt it was good. I just moved around, and they were a little bit quiet at first, but I expect for them to get a little bit louder. So I'm gonna have my lunch and enjoy the rest of my day. I don't know if I'm gonna come back on after this, because I have 7th period, and then 8th period is my Cambridge class, and I need to go make copies for them because that particular course, the dual enrollment course, the professor switched. So the current professor is using all the material from the old professor, but there are some things that needed to be changed, and so I need to download that stuff and make copies right now. So I'm gonna take care of that, have my lunch, and get ready for 7th period.
Leave this original problem there. I'm just going to marker. Did you finish watching the video? I'm gonna let me find a marker. There you go. I want you to try to work with that process.
Happy hump day. It's Wednesday. It's my conference period, planning period. So 4th period. And so my day is sort of over, if you will. Today went really well. I was a little bit worried because me and the other teacher, pre-P chemistry teacher, were going to do math boot camp. So after last year, realizing that there were students who were struggling in math, like basic things like rounding and scientific notation, and then I had other students that were accelerated, and unfortunately, like I didn't pick up on that until we started getting into the math heavy portion of chemistry. So I decided this year that I was going to, along with my personalized learning and blended learning, etc., figure that out right away. Figure out who was strong, who needed some support, and build that way. So on the first day of school, and I think I mentioned this on Monday, students did stations, and one of the stations was a pre-assessment. My 8A students, I gave them about maybe like 12 minutes, and I don't even know if I said this yesterday. And then my B-Day students, I decided to switch it up, and we did it as a whole class at the very beginning. So they were able to finish a majority of it for those of, because I put also a time limit on that as well, but they had a sufficient enough time to get through. And so then today with my 8A classes, I just told them to, well, first of all, my projector, that's a mess. So trying to fix that, then Canvas is having issues. But anyway, I told the students to log into Blend or Canvas and look at their pre-assessment scores, and if students missed more than 3 questions in the rounding section, and then they were required to go to the rounding station. And it was just a video that I found on YouTube, and they had to watch that, and then they practice. And I bought these things over the summer, and I know like the primary teachers use them, but like they're my favorite thing now, and I may have showed this earlier. Everything's blurred together, so I don't remember like what I talked about. So what I did was I don't know if you can't really see that. Yeah, I printed out a hard copy of a rounding practice sheet, and once the students finished watching the video, they came and I just told them purple drawer. They opened up the purple drawer, and each of the things had an eraser and a dry erase marker, so they would write on here. And then when they were ready, I told them, okay, so you can check your answers. So they came to the blue drawer, and I had an answer key already ready for them. So then they had to check themselves, and then when they were done, they called me over, and I just, okay, how do you do? Some students got 100, some students, you know, missed like 8 or got a lot of them wrong. And so I was able to do some quick interventions right there on the spot. So I had them come up to the board, and we kind of talked about why they got it, you know, wrong, and I had them explain, and they're like, oh, you know, I thought it was this. Some students had trouble with place value, and I was debating whether or not to put something in the module about that and on the page, but I didn't do that. But it did come out when students who still were struggling a little bit, they needed some extra support, so I went over place value with them on the board. But that seemed to help. That was something new, like I didn't do last year, in terms of like students checking their own answers and then checking in with me. And I sort of use the analogy of like going to the doctor. So, you know, when you go to the doctor, like I asked the students, like, you know, when you're in the waiting room and the nurse calls you back, like what's the first thing like they ask you? And the student's like, you know, they check your blood pressure, they do all these different things. And then you see the doctor, and the doctor can give you advice, and then either you take the doctor's advice, you know, stop smoking, etc. So you do that or you don't do that. And so I just kind of put it the same way with the learning in here. Not everything's for grades, so I'm going to be, you know, your learning doctor, and I'm going to try to help you out. But also I need for you all to kind of help one another, and my check-ins with you is kind of like me assessing you and giving you some feedback. So they seem to buy into that. That was one of the stations, the rounding one. There was a scientific notation station here and here. This one was acquired because it was the same interactive. I have an interactive notebook thing that I used last year, but we did this one as a class last year. I do, we do, you do, but this year I created a video before school started, and using Camtasia where I built in quizzes. And so that was a required station all the students had to do, regardless if they did well on that portion of the pre-assessment, because I also talked about how to enter scientific notation into the calculator and then also into the Canvas site, which is something that for many of them will be new. Another station was, it was going to be a rearranging equations, but I decided to hold off and not do that. The other one was simplifying algebraic fractions, because dimensional analysis is a skill that is important and students sometimes struggle with it, and that's coming up in a week or two. And so I decided, let me try to see if they can get the hang of, you know, unit cancellation in the numerator and denominator. So I had these like neon expo markers, I don't know if you can really see that, and then they wrote on the black surface, so that's why my tables are dirty right now. So I just came over here after they watched the video. Like I shot a video real quick before school because I left my charger here at school last night and I couldn't film it because my computer died at home yesterday. So I filmed it before school. It was a very short video, like 7 minutes. And then after they watched the video, I just came up here and just gave them some problems, and they worked in pairs. Both had to do a problem with the expo marker, the neon expo marker, and then I came over and then I went over it with them. And I would say a majority of the students like understood that piece. So that's great because I'm gonna tie that into dimensional analysis when I'm, sorry for you non-science people, but when I'm talking about that, I'm gonna remind them back to, hey, remember when we did, or when you did the little station writing on the table? So that worked out. And then for students that were advanced, like they did really well in the rounding section, they got, I don't know why this is back here. Oh, because I forgot my keys and I couldn't enter the door. I had them start making flashcards for the elements, because I'm making them memorize elements this year, and the symbols and polyatomic ions. And it's something that I struggle with because in the past, I haven't done that, but last year it just was a pain. And I know like they can look up online, and sometimes that's the argument with chemistry teachers, like, yeah, they can just look up online or, you know, use a chart, but they can also look up the molar mass and a whole bunch of other things online as well. Like I caught several of my students trying to do that last year. So it's just gonna make it easier for me when we get to naming compounds for them to already have a like foundation, or just at least be familiar with many of them, because we would have used them all up until that point. And actually today, the second day for my 8A classes, we took a little mini element quiz. They were like, what? And so it wasn't encounter anything like that, but I just told them, I'm gonna continually assess you. So after I called about like 6, I either gave a symbol or a name. I had them like pair share to see like, hey, compare. I want you all to debate like who's right, who's wrong. And then like we popcorned out the correct answers before we did the stations. So that was it. Tomorrow's the same thing for my B-Day classes. They will have more data because they actually completed it as a class, the pre-assessment. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually gonna start shooting videos for upcoming lessons. So I'm gonna take care of that right now. It is the end of the day, Thursday. Today went pretty well. My B-Day classes did what my A-Day classes did yesterday. So they were doing the mini math boot camp. My 6th period is like almost 30 students. And so while I am enjoying the personalized learning stations that I'm attempting to do, it is somewhat stressful right now because last year my students, my class sizes decreased as the year progressed. And so when I attempted personalization and standards-based grading, blended learning at the end of the school year, first of all, I knew all the students by then and their personalities, and the class sizes were smaller. Whereas the start of this year, I started off without, and maybe that's my fault, I probably should have come up with some system, like if I were gonna do flexible seating and allowing them to sit wherever they wanted to the first few days, I should have had like some type of like, hey, wear this name badge until I get to know your name. I can still do that, but that's a lesson learned, so if I do this next year, I'll know. So just keeping up with, you know, my large classes, that's sort of been a struggle, and maybe I'm just tired also because it's the first week back, and hopefully once things start rolling along, I'll be okay. But everything's been going well. The other pre-AP chemistry teacher and I have talked about like how her classes are going, and so her students seem to also be getting into the activities that we set up. So actually tomorrow, my B-Day classes, we actually start chemistry. So whereas the first day was, we did some stations moving around, Wednesday and today were the mini math boot camp. Tomorrow we are starting accuracy and precision. So I need to get some stuff ready for that because they're gonna play some games just depending on what they choose. So I'm gonna get my stuff and head home.
I tossed it, right?
It's Friday, so that means it's the end of the first week of school. I survived. It was a great first week. Tiring, but a good tiring, I guess, if you can say that. And as I mentioned earlier, or if I didn't, that like pretty much every day that I got home this week, like I passed out or passed out shortly after trying to work or making dinner. And so today was the first day we were doing science-related chemistry topics. On the second day of class, we did math boot camp, and I did that because last year students struggled with rounding, scientific notation, understanding how you just like canceling units in the numerator and denominator. So I wanted to do boot camp earlier this week, or at least the second day of school, that went over rounding, scientific notation, simplifying algebraic fractions. And I don't think I talked about that piece, but that's why students were writing on the lab tables. And so today, when class started, they all took an assessment. It was very short, and I was able to create a sheet where I just cut it in half, so a sheet per 2 students. And they did that first. When they were finished, they brought their sheet to me. They came up, they grabbed one of these quietly because the students were still completing that. They also grabbed a wacky ruler. So if you watched my vlog last year, I think even the first week of school I did this. They were instructed to measure the shark, the length of the shark with the blue end, and hold on. When all students were finished with the assessment, which most finished before 10 minutes was up, I passed out the sheets randomly, and so we graded in class, and I went over it. Then I told them, call out the name and find that person because you need to get to know everybody anyways, and so they handed papers back. Then the students, once they got their paper back to see how they did, they turned it into me. Once they did that, they grabbed a ruler and they measured the shark, this time in centimeters. When they did that, they logged into the Canvas site, and there was a discussion board that I created. And so they entered their measurement for the wacky ruler and the ruler they used centimeters on. And then once they hit reply, they were able to not only see their response, but they could see the response of their classmates. And if they were in later periods, they were able to see responses of students that were in classes before them. So my third period on 8A on Monday, they will be able to see all the responses if they choose to kind of scroll down. And it was interesting because some of the students were already discussing, like, so-and-so put this, or I told you we should have put this. But I'm going to, after my 8A does it, I'm going to take all the data and we're going to talk about that when I go over accuracy and precision. So once that was done, then the students got to choose their destiny and choose from everything here. So the washer set up, except these are mine. And the lawn darts, these come from the school. And the cornhole, I bought all these from Five Below. So they can choose from any of those 3 or calculating the density of water. However, with these 3 setups, no more than 4 people could play this, no more than 4 people could play this, and no more than 4 people could play this. And then my 6th period was with the first set of students that did this today, so I allowed them to work in pairs if they chose this. However, my 7th period, I told them that I can only have 1 person per lab thing. So there were 8 density setups, so triple beam balance and just a plastic graduated cylinder. So with that class, it was small enough that everybody was able to at least get to a station. And so I'm just going to explain the beanbag toss because basically these 3 are the same. So they worked in a group of 4, no more than 4. And 2 people got to play first, and then the other 2 people, they helped. So they had a tape measure, and what they did is each person took turns throwing their 3 bean bags, and wherever it hit initially, the helper was instructed to measure the initial hit spot all the way to the center of the hole, And then the person who threw initially, they got to throw one more time, so for a total of 6 data points. Once they had their 6 data points, they switched with the person that was helping them, and then it was their turn to measure and help that person collect data. So it was the same thing, 6 here, 6 data points, 6 data points, even they had to measure the density of water 6 times. From there, I told them, okay, what you're going to do now when you're done is you're going to take out your cell phone and you're going to make a video going over your data, and you're going to tell me whether you believe you're accurate, yes or no, and why, and if you're precise, yes or no, and why. And the students just looked at me like, what? Oh no, like I'm not doing that. And I laughed. I was like, you guys take out your phones all the time. Guys and girls take out your phones all the time. I see you out there in the courtyard, selfies, etc. I think they thought I was going to show other students, but I told them no, like the videos are just for me and then also for you, because after they shot the videos and they uploaded it to Canvas, and I didn't say this, but several of the students were like, I don't know what accuracy precision is. I'm like, that's okay, I just want you to I want to hear what you believe it is and what you think. And then what we're going to do is after I talk about accuracy precision and you learn a little bit more about it, Then what you're going to do is you're going to create a video, and you're going to explain like whether you believed, whether you are right or wrong, and kind of the new information that you've learned. And you can also look back at the old video to kind of see what you knew back then and what you've learned now. So basically creating, I guess, like a learning portfolio, which I'm not intentionally doing, because I think I'm already taking on a lot of different things: flexible seating, blended learning, personalization, etc. That trying to do portfolios is probably gonna burn me out. So I'm just gonna like have them just do stuff, and hopefully next year I can build up like a whole portfolio thing. Maybe it might be a little bit more easier than I believe, and so I probably can do it, but for right now I just want them to have that because they can always access the videos. So that's what we did today. It was great because the students were saying things like, class is over already, like that was fast. And anytime as a teacher you hear that, you know that you had the students engaged and they were focused on what they should have been doing. So that was great. So my 80 classes will do this on Monday, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday I will go over accuracy, precision, significant figures, and I also have some activities for that as well. So first week was great, I can't complain, and I'm looking forward to week 2. So I am gonna grab my stuff and enjoy the rest of my evening and this weekend. Do me a favor, if there was anything about this video that you liked, then make sure to hit that like button, comment down below, and or share the video. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe so that way you can bond with James. As always, thanks for watching. Bye.